Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Cory Smith, Senior Director of Supplier Diversity and Strategic Sourcing for Major League Baseball. So I'm pretty informal. I'm also pretty candid. So I need to put those two disclaimers out there now so I don't offend or piss anybody off in the next 2 hours. So I set this up as literally boot camp. Supplier Diversity 101 takes you through what you need to look for to start a program, what you need to grow a program. I hate that I have to stand behind this thing. And things you need to look for in your organization to make your program better or the best it can be in your organization. And we're going to talk about a lot about what that even means in a sec. So this is the tentative agenda. We're going to kind of jump around. We're going to move around, and I want some feedback. So if you guys have any questions, there's no Q&A at the end of this. You got something to say, again, by all means, let's interact, let's talk, raise your hand, ask a question, say, Cory, you're full of crap. Say, Cory, there's no way that would work in my organization. Whatever you need to do, let's discuss. But again, we want to assess your corporate landscape, see where you are in your organization, and how important supplier diversity is to your organization, or even if your organization has the temperament to really explain or explode a supplier diversity program. That's completely separate and apart from level setting, putting a stake in the ground and say, okay, here's where we're going to start. Then we're going to do some benchmarking against a whole bunch of folks. And then you need to build your case. Then we figure out how to market the program, measure the program, and really integrate it into your corporation. Okay, so who's supplier diversity and who's procurement? Let's do that. Supplier diversity. Procurement. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. I do both. So okay. So those of you in supplier diversity, are you in the procurement department?
Yes.
Anybody not in procurement that's in supplier diversity? Where are you?
Operations.
Okay. All right. And I'm asking all these questions because I want to make sure I'm giving you guys information that you can take away and go use later, tomorrow, Wednesday, whenever. So at Major League Baseball, we're a standalone department. Diversity is, I report to our Chief Diversity Officer. She has me, I handle supplier diversity, and my counterpart handles workforce diversity. There's only 5 of us, and then we have a coordinator and an assistant. We just got a new commissioner in baseball this year. So under the old commissioner, we reported directly, my boss, reported directly to the CFO. We now report under the new commissioner. He restructured, he moved everything around, he changed, fired a bunch of people, and brought in his own team. Okay, y'all don't get all that. We now report to our chief legal officer. And part of that was because he had technology, and we have a huge technology component, which I'm going to talk about. He had HR. So the workforce diversity piece kind of tied in with the HR piece. The other big thing that is very different for MLB is we don't have procurement. It's the intent that I'm going to centralize procurement for the entire league. So the teams have procurement. There is no one big procurement department for Major League Baseball. There's 30 Major League teams. About half of them have a procurement department. The other half, anybody in that organization can pick up the phone and buy whatever they want to buy whenever they want to buy it, which is a procurement nightmare. Right? So I have, in my supplier diversity role, kind of morphed into this procurement role where I look for big league-wide deals that everybody can use, and I'll do procurement contracts for the entire league. Now, these teams are franchises, which means they're their own companies. So they, whenever they feel like it, tell them, Cory, go kick rocks. We're not listening to anything you have to say because they don't have to. They have their own owner, they have their own president, they have their own P&L, they have their own budget, They don't. They pay a franchise fee to the commissioner's office, which is where I work, and then they say, leave us the hell alone. So I put these big contracts in place knowing that not all of them are going to actually use them. So I just want to set the landscape for where I sit and the role and how my world operates, again, to try to give you guys some information. Because I want to start with this very first point. What does your internal landscape look like from a procurement perspective? And again, I asked how many procurement people in the room, and please, nobody take this as any sort or form of disrespect at all. I'm going to lay out a scenario for you, and if you fall in one of these three buckets, doesn't mean one is better than the other. It is what it is. There is a difference between purchasing, procurement, and strategic sourcing. Here's the difference. Purchasing, they're buyers. Somebody comes to a purchasing buyer and says, here's a requisition for 10 pencils. That buyer turns that requisition into a purchase order and buys 10 pencils. He gets 10 recs from 10 different people. He places 10 different orders for 10 different departments. It's a buyer. Procurement says, well, I got 10 recs from 10 different people. Let me not place 10 different orders, let me place one order for 100. But I'm going to figure out either through an RP, a bidding process, some sort of procurement strategy, how to save us money and get this in an efficient and effective manner. So a little bit more control over that process. Strategic sourcing says, we know the price of lead is going up. I'm going to make a decision on behalf of this company because I've been empowered to do so, that we're not buying lead pencils. It costs too much. We're switching this entire company's platform. We're now buying crayons. As strategic sourcing, I have the power to make that decision on behalf of my company. I don't give a damn if you brought me a rec for pencils. You're not getting pencils. You're getting crayons. Maybe I'll give you a permanent marker. You understand the difference? That's important to know how your company operates from that perspective, because if you sit in procurement, what I've just defined is how much success and influence you're going to have in changing people's minds about how they spend the money and who they spend the money with. That's it. Either you have that power to make those sorts of decisions and influence people even if you can't make the decision, or you don't. If they view you as support, right? Because a procurement function, a purchasing function is a support position. We help you guys do what you need to do. And by support, that means go get me my 10 pencils that I asked for. Or do they view you as somebody that can make a recommendation that benefits the entire organization? That's the foundation right there. We haven't even started talking about supplier diversity yet, right? We're still on, how do I get people in this organization to do something that may not necessarily be even on their brain? And I'm still not talking about diversity. The overall function of this entire presentation is to get you to understand that diversity is less about, in the business setting, is less about ethnicity, gender, any of that stuff. It is entirely about, in the business setting, money. And if you are thinking otherwise, hopefully by the end of this you won't be. All right? So, how the money is spent is what you need to start focusing on. Everybody's procurement department doesn't control all the money, right? So, and I'm going to pause here, because we got time. I'm going to pause here and kind of run through my corporate record. So I work at MLB now. Been at MLB for about 4 years. Prior to that, I worked at NBC Universal. I ran their Supplier Diversity department at NBC Universal. I was there for about 5 years. When I got to NBC, the Supplier Diversity program was about $70 million. And NBC spends about $50 billion a year. When I left, it was about $500 million. So I moved the needle, still had a long way to go, but we were working on that. Before NBC, I worked at Altria, when Altria was still the parent company of Philip Morris and Kraft. While I was there, it spun Kraft off. Kraft became its own company, and then it decided to break up Philip Morris into international, domestic, so on and so forth. But when I was at Altria, Altria was one of the founders of the $1 billion round table. Kraft did a little over 500 million in supply diversity. Philip Morris did about 600–700 million in supply diversity. Put the two of them together, the parent company does over $1 billion. And then prior to Altria, I actually started the Supplier Diversity program at Columbia University in New York, which is where I went to school. And I worked in the purchasing department while I was getting my MBA. And basically, for those, Columbia's in New York, Columbia's on 116th and Broadway in Manhattan. And while they say they're in Morningside Heights, everybody knows everything above 110th Street is actually Harlem. So Columbia was doing a lot of local business, inherently spending a lot of money with minority businesses because that's what was in the neighborhood and didn't even realize it. So I essentially just counted up what their local spend was, started a supply diversity program, and they were already doing over $1 million of local business and didn't even know. And we're going to talk about that because a huge function to getting started is actually to just count whatever the hell you already are doing before you even do anything else, right? But I said all of that to say what's important is understanding how much money is being spent, period, and then determining how much of it applies to supplier diversity. At MLB, I only apply about $2 billion. We spend a lot more. I only apply about $2 billion, and everybody knows what the list of exclusions could potentially be. Every company has a different set of exclusions. Your company may have one that's completely different than theirs. As part of NMSDC, I sit in a bunch of these industry groups, because again, I've moved around a lot, so I've been in a couple of different industry groups. And we all sit around and we all say, okay, we all need to come up with a standard set of exclusions. I've been in this game almost 20 years, I've never seen it work yet. The only industry group that has done it is EMI.
Oh, professional services.
Professional services. They're the ones that do it. And they sat down, your industry was only 4 companies, so they could do it, and said, we are going to create a list of exclusions that all 4 of us are going to use, and that's it. I've never seen another industry where all the companies have been able to agree on the list of exclusions. So, again, at NBC, I based all my supply diversity numbers on about 1.5 billion. At MLB, I'm basing it on 2 billion. You can't count everything. You don't want to count everything, right? And we're going to get into numbers and the games people play with numbers in a little while. So, knowing what falls outside of procurement is as important as knowing what falls inside, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to go talk to the head of some department that ultimately you're not moving that needle at all, or can't, or shouldn't. From just a pure purchasing 101 perspective, you need to know what's being controlled by bids, what's being controlled by RFPs, what's being controlled by contracts, what's being controlled by sole source, so on and so forth. These are all categories that impact your role. You don't want to waste your time chasing a commodity that has a sole source that nobody in your company is going to even think about swapping out. Can't swap out. I don't know too many Hispanic-owned companies that build lasers, but even if there was one, if you're in an organization looking for that and have a great laser company, what's the likelihood you're swapping it out? We'll talk about that in a second. Your internal advocates and champions and your hierarchy are, again, trying not to be too discouraging here. I'm trying to stay positive. Where you fall in your organization obviously matters. I kind of gave you our layout, right? We reported directly to the CFO, now we report directly to the CLO. My boss is 2 steps away from the commissioner of baseball. But we're not necessarily a huge monster of an organization. The commissioner's office maxes out at 400 or 500 people. When I was at NBC, yeah, the president of NBC, yeah, trying to get to that guy. No, because we weren't, it's a 30,000 employee company. It's a global company. Baseball's a domestic sport. There's a difference in the landscape and understanding where you fit in and what that level of influence is going to be. So again, once you've identified what's the applicable spend, you count anything and everything you can get your hands on. How many have Tier 2 programs? Okay. We're going to talk on Tier 2 in a second. But your ability to count everything without counting everything it's a tricky game, right? And I've worked for 4 or 5 companies at this point doing supplier diversity. You want to be able to put a stake in the ground and get started that says, here is our baseline for our diversity program in which we can only go up from here. I've level set a program before where I've completely omitted small business. I've level set a program before where I've completely omitted veterans. I've level set a program before where I've completely omitted LGBT. Either the numbers weren't right, the certifications weren't right, our internal processes on how we were collecting vendor information wasn't right, and to add that pile of junk to good data would have made everything junk. So when I say count everything, that doesn't mean include everything. It means count everything so you know what's a mess, you know what's good, and then you can figure out where you want to start. Yeah? Okay. So now let's talk about technology. How many of you have something? A program, CBM, DIR, Supplier Gateway, I'm running out of names, there's a bunch of them. Everybody's got something. Well, let me ask the question differently. Who's doing this homemade? George, really? What the hell are you doing?
We're a great IT technology company.
Well, yeah. You don't need anybody else, right? Okay. It is important that you have a tool that you're comfortable with. That's the term. And that you trust. And that you believe provides good data. We're all here at an NMSDC event. Obviously, we're all partners with NMSDC. Obviously, they have tools and best practices at their disposal that we can all leverage. At MLB, we use Supplier Gateway, which is a partner. When I was at NBC, I used CBM. When I was at Altria, we did it ourselves. And had NMSDC verify the certifications versus not. Something as simple, and again, I'm still not even really talking about diversity. This is all still just very procurement based, right? Because what your vendor database has in terms of data or information down to the tax ID numbers, which sounds very basic, but I can tell you the Colorado Rockies are a great baseball team. their finance department is not necessarily the best at recording information. So they've got stacks and stacks of vendor forms where a vendor completed a form in order to get paid. That stack didn't necessarily make it into Great Plains, the accounts payable system. So I've got a bunch of vendors without tax IDs that is then hard for me to verify whether they are diverse or not, because we all know that our accounts payable systems will have IBM, Inc. It'll have I period, B period, M period, Inc. It'll have International Business Machines, International Business Machines, Inc. Same company, written 4 to 5 different ways, and the minute you take off that tax ID, I'm screwed. Because I have no idea of knowing if it's the same company or if it's not. Because the address doesn't matter, right? All these companies got 10 different remit-to addresses. So you can send that check anywhere. Your technology will, in fact, screw you. Or it will help you. If you are not working hand in hand with your procurement folks, if you are not working hand in hand with your finance department, nothing else in this entire presentation matters. The data is all that matters. The technology or whatever you're using, I don't care if you're using Excel. I really don't. It has to be good data. If one of those mandatory critical fields, like a tax ID number, is missing, and that company is listed in there 5, 6, 7 times, in my case, right, I've got 30 teams. They all, in some cases, most of them are using the same guys. So I've got 30 teams who've got the same guy. One team's got the same guy listed 5 different ways. Multiply that by 30. Different remit-to addresses because they're all using different locations. And the minute one of them takes off a tax ID, that team, that vendor, the same vendor, that vendor falls through the cracks. So let's say he is in fact diverse, and let's say the other 29 teams only spent $1,000 with him. That guy, that team spent $1 million with him, and they forgot the tax ID. Gone. It's not showing up. Anything. So the ability to capture all of this stuff has to be paramount in anything you do before you even get to the diversity stuff. But why is it important? Because the different tracks report to different people, and it provides you with different information, right? You've got the procurement data, which is how much you spent with this guy, what commodity he fell into, the actual vendor information, the budget codes, right? And we're not even going to really dive into the whole budgetary aspect of your construction department had $1 million budget, blew it, went over, but the amount they went over by, suppose all of that was diverse spend. And now they got to fight next year for their budget, and somebody wants to short it by that amount. Y'all again. And then there's the financial data, right? Your CFO wants to know for next year, well, all right, Chicago Cubs are renovating Wrigley Field. $40 million construction project over 18 months. Put it all in CapEx. At the end of month 16, when they're getting ready for next year's budget, because out of that $40 million, they had a $20 million, no, it's not $20 million, they had about a $15 million diversity goal for the city of Chicago. The budget is coming up to redo his CapEx, and he's wiping all of that out because construction is almost done. Where are you getting your diversity numbers from next year? Because it's gone now. And he's not budgeting for it anymore. You would get all your diversity numbers out of one thing. Somebody was renovating a baseball field. It's gone. Now what? So you were on this great steady climb. Every year your number was moving up. Boom. CapEx project is done. What happens next? Are you getting it from another department? Are you getting it from discretionary funds? Because CapEx project is done. And then there's the stuff you care about. This is the stuff the CPO cares about. This is the stuff the CFO cares about. This is the stuff you care about. You want to know, what is my actual diversity spend? All right, did I spend more with African Americans than I did with Hispanics? How am I going to level that off? Did I spend too much with women? Do I need to scale that back or focus my efforts somewhere else? What am I doing to hit my goal and hit my target? Certifications, and again, I'm at an MFCC event, so I'm going to behave. I've got a lot of non-certified vendors in baseball. These teams love their city. That's who comes to the games, right? So that's who they support. The teams are all about this city. The Yankees is one of the biggest sports brands in the world. Not just in baseball. In any sport, the Yankees baseball hat sells more in Japan than it does in the United States. They're also one of the richest. I think they get beat out by maybe the Dallas Cowboys or somebody. Right? They won last night. They beat my Giants. I'm not saying too much. They use Hispanic printer right down the block from Yankee Stadium. Little small company. His only claim to fame is that he has the New York friggin' Yankees as a client. Why is that? Because he happened to literally set up shop a block away. If he were anywhere else on this planet, he would not have the New York Yankees as a client. He's in the Bronx. They do business with Bronx businesses. They are great neighbors to the Bronx. He pops up. He's not certified. Pops up on my data, shows up in my data. I know that he's diverse. I go to him. I say, look, I need you to get certified. He's like, what the hell is that? I walk him through the whole process. Here's what you need to do. New York, New Jersey Council, $400. I'll help you with the application. I'll come to your damn audit if I need to. I need you to get certified. Not interested. I show up, I do my job, I close my doors at 6, I get to go home and eat dinner with my family every night. I'm a small business. I have no interest in growing. I'm like, dude, I'll bring you the New York Yankees. I mean, the Mets. You get certified, I'll bring you the Mets. If you brought me the New York Mets, I would be out of business in a year. Because I would have to run this shop 24/7. My costs would go through the roof. I'd be done. I tried everything in the book. This man is like, I am not interested in your damn certification. I got nothing. I got nothing. He kicked me out so he can go home and eat dinner with his family. He is fine. He is fine. Certification is not for everybody. And you guys are going to need to understand that how you count certified versus non-certified is going to impact your number. And it's in there, right? And I've got that story 30 more times in 30 more cities. Houston, forget it. I went through a serious campaign with the Houston Astros to get a lot of vendors in Houston certified. No. They're not interested. And some of them are just not going to be. They have a lifestyle that works for them. You're not going to be able to convert everybody. And then there are those that you will. So, understanding, but what I want you to get to is every one of these words, they're actually numbers. And that is going to play an important part into what you guys do. We're going to assume that you've assessed where you are. You know whether you have a purchasing department, a procurement department, or strategic sourcing department. We're going to assume that you've got some great technology, something that you can work with, something that you can work with. we're going to assume that you have some knowledge around how your company spends money, whether that's discretionary or non-discretionary, CapEx or not, and that you have a relative good feel about where your diversity numbers fit in the grand scheme of things. We've done some level setting internally for you only from a numbers perspective. So far, you were able to count up how much money you spent last year in diversity versus how much money was spent overall across the company. You put your stake in the ground. Now you want to benchmark. Now you want to see, okay, let me see how good I am. Let me compare myself to someone else and just see. Because I might think I'm doing really well with this diversity thing, and in fact, my competitor is kicking my ass. You want to benchmark against your immediate competitor. So when I was at NBC, my CPO said, I want you to compare us to CBS, Fox, ABC, which was ABC owned by Disney, Time Warner, Warner Brothers, Sony, because they have a movie house, Six Flags, because they have amusement parks. She threw at me about a list of 20 companies. When it was all said and done, the only one I should have been comparing myself to was actually Disney. Because they have TV and film, like NBC. They have amusement parks, like NBC. That's it. No one else had the right mix for me to actually compare myself. They had a component or two. They didn't have everything. And it was unfair to try to assess how much money we spent globally versus someone that only spent domestically. It was unfair to compare myself to how much money we spent in amusement parks and TV and film and cable against an amusement park, period. So this benchmarking exercise, and again, it's only for you, right? You're not going to share this information with the world, but for you to get a real assessment of where you stand, who you pick to compare yourself to is critical. This is where I get to talk crap about the other sports leagues, so you're going to have to indulge me for a second. Because MLB, we launched our Supplier Diversity program in '98 and got real support, I would say probably in 2000. Now, I don't know about you guys, but all the companies that I've worked for, they've started their Supplier Diversity programs not because they thought it was the right thing to do, which is what you hear a bazillion times. They all started because somebody was yelling at them. They all started because of external pressure. No business wakes up one day and says, let me see if I can take care of all the Hispanic, Black, Asian, Indian people in the world. No business does that. There are clear reasons why companies start supplier diversity programs. It does not involve your CEO waking up to his alarm and saying, I think I'm going to do this today. There was an incentive or a reason why he or she chose that. At NBC, we had folks picketing on the lot in Universal Studios, signs, oh God, what's her name? Hazel Dukes, Jesse Jackson, California, Maxine Waters. Good Lord, that one. Picket signs. We don't hire enough women producers. We don't hire enough women camera people. There are no people of color that can greenlight a show. There aren't enough blacks on TV. There aren't enough Native American Indians doing anything. That's why NBC started the Supplier Diversity program. Because people were outside Universal Studios, people were outside 30 Rock saying, you need to do something. At MLB, the decline in African American players since the 70s. In the 70s, the 40-man roster was about 40% African American. It is now 8%. The flip has happened over that same period of time. It was 10% Hispanic, it is now 40%. This is business, right? I'm not talking about your personal feelings on diversity. I don't care if you're racist or not, I don't care what you are, actually. This is business, and people are interested in what makes them money. And you make money, you make a profit, excuse me, 2 ways. Either you increase your revenue or you decrease your costs. Baseball decided in the 80s that it was a hell of a lot cheaper to go to the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Panama, Venezuela, and recruit 16-year-olds that can play baseball really friggin' well, and bring them to the United States, put them into the minor league system, pay them $100 grand. $100 grand back in the Dominican Republic feeds an entire village. And cultivate these young men, as opposed to recruiting the same Dominican who went to a 4-year college here in the United States. It is cheaper. So that was the beginning of our Supplier Diversity program. On-field activities prompted administrative and off-field activities. Great, I'm glad we're here. Let's do something about it. And to that end, we have a bunch of wonderful initiatives now in place to improve youth and minority play, domestically and abroad. Different subject, different day. Maybe I'll come back and do a little session on that. To that end, we launched our Supplier Diversity program. We do this full-time, every day, all day. The NBA does Supplier Diversity for their All-Star game. That's it. Whatever city All-Star is going to be, next year it's in Toronto. It was in New York this year. They go nuts. They go absolutely nuts. They take over that town. They spend a bunch of money with diverse businesses. All-Star is 5 days. They pack up their league. The NFL, Supplier Diversity for the Super Bowl. Go nuts. Same thing. Whatever city, take over, spend a crap load of money. And they spend a lot with diverse businesses. I'm not taking it away from them. One time. PGA has a full-time program. Kind of. Soccer has yet to implement anything. In soccer, once you leave this country, soccer is the biggest sport in the world. The biggest and the most diverse. Huge in Europe, huge in India, huge in any Latin-speaking country there is. NASCAR has a great program. Can't take anything away from NASCAR. And you'd be surprised, right? Because the perception of NASCAR is that its fans are all redneck white men that love to watch cars go around in a circle. They have a fantastic Supplier Diversity program. And the USTA also has a fantastic Supplier Diversity program. The USTA was one of the first to really go after LGBT. And their program is one of the best from a youth perspective in terms of they work with youth. And so this is diversity overall. I'm not speaking just supplier. But they have a great program in terms of making sure youth can play tennis. Their Supplier Diversity program focuses on all their tennis centers, not just big events like the US Open and that sort of thing, but they focus on all the tennis centers they have around the communities, around the country. So even if it is a youth tennis center, they're making sure that youth tennis center is supported by diverse businesses in that area. But this is who I benchmark against. I'm in the sports industry. I benchmark against other sports leagues. I have taken a look at comparing myself to arenas and venues, right? I have a bunch of baseball stadiums. Baseball plays 180 games a year, 80 of them are at home. We're putting on a concert basically 80 times a year, right? You open your doors, you let 40,000 people in, you sit them down, and they watch a show. So I've gone through the exercise of comparing myself to the Madison Square Gardens, the Barclays Centers, the Staples Centers, big arenas, big venues, not quite the fit I was looking for. There's tons of synergy there, obviously, concessions, food services, security, renovations, those sorts of commodities and industries that we all buy, but they don't have all of the fan engagement experience down to ticketing, down to our digital strategies and how we market people to buy tickets that we have. So we're a bigger operation. My point is, be selective, but be clear in who you are benchmarking against. Are these examples kind of making sense? Are you you're kind of putting a list together in your own head of who you should be comparing yourself to and why? Right? So I've looked at those guys. I know I kicked their butt. I'm good. I'm better. I know. So I said, okay. I looked at my industry. Let me look at, yes.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
We talked about benchmarking competitors. So
Yes.
how did you do that? Did you call them directly and just say,
Yeah.
have a conversation, you can compare notes? Did you use
Yeah.
their internet sites?
Yeah.
Did you do a little bit of all?
Yeah. What you should know by now is that we all do the same thing, right? We are all in this together. You have your specific reason why your company is doing it, but we're all in this together. I've got a stack of cards on me. Everybody should have my email address by the time you walk out of here. You have any question, do not hesitate. I have my go-to folks in this industry that if I have anything I need, down to a supplier or how to launch whatever, some crazy third-tier program, I know who I can pick up the phone and call. You will learn. Now I say, you also know who not to call. Right? Because some of us are not in this game for the right reasons. I hate that I'm being filmed. I really shouldn't be saying half of the stuff I'm saying. But I did put my disclaimer out that I'm pretty candid. It is not far-fetched to think that you can pick up the phone and ask one of your peers what they're doing and how they're doing. You're not asking for their numbers, right? You're not asking for numbers. I don't want your numbers. I want to know how you're doing, what you're doing. If you're successful at it, I want to know. When I was at NBC and I had to do that benchmarking, the idea and thought was that there's no way your peer is going to share that information with you direct competitors. What the hell is Disney going to tell you their information for? Why would Fox give you any ideas about what they're doing? It was the exact opposite. Again, I don't want your numbers. I want to know how you're doing what you're doing really well. You want to throw a percentage my way? Give me some percentages. I don't want your numbers. I don't want them. But you absolutely can, again, my experience, and I've been in Supplier Diversity 20 years, my experience is I can pick up the phone, I can call any 10 of you in this room, 6 of you are going to get back to me, and the other 4 you were on vacation. And I am volunteering, I am adding myself to all of your lists. Call me if you have a question. So, yes, it is as simple as, yeah, pick up the phone and ask somebody. Be clear on what you're asking them, though, because you're also going to get 6 very different answers back, because everybody does this differently. What you count is different than what somebody else counts. So you need to be able to decipher what you get back. It's not on them. You can't blame them that they gave you back something that you can't use. You have to be very clear on what you're asking for. So this is who I went to next. These are the guys that when we all go to the black tie dinner in May and we go to the award show, they keep getting the award every year, right? Doesn't make them never seem like they're winning the award every year. They drive me nuts. I hate those. Pepsi too, damn. Jeez. Ricardo. How many of you know Mike Robinson at IBM? You all should know Mike Robinson at IBM. Mike is king of international supplier diversity. And I don't know if you're ready to go there yet. You gotta get to US a lot first. But when you are ready to do a global program, if you do not call Michael Robinson at IBM, you are doing yourself a disservice. That man has got this thing so fine-tuned. He makes more money outside of the US than he does in the US in terms of supplier diversity. He's got an Asia program, he's got a South America program, he's got an Africa program. And again, remember, once you leave the United States, this thing is not called supplier diversity anymore. In Africa, there's more black people than anybody else, right? They don't call it that. It's called underutilized, I think is the word they use. But they're not the minority. They're the majority, they're just not being utilized. This is who I compare myself to. What the hell are they doing that I'm not? And how can I get there? So, again, you've benchmarked against your own industry. You've figured out where you fall there. And then you said, all right, let me go see who's the best. And you compare yourself to them. And you say, oh, damn, I got so much work to do. I'm not even close. Right? And then you figure out where you really fall. Is everybody familiar with Ralph Moore's 5 pillars? If not, you need to go study them. Each one of these bars has a list of criteria that you should be doing in your program to qualify you for those bars. Clearly, this means you don't have a program. This means you've got somebody, they might be doing it part-time, not really sure if they're a full-time person yet. Maybe it's a procurement person that's kind of doing it on the side. Hey, go get us some diverse spend. Basic means, okay, you've got a full-time person doing supplier diversity, and they've got a tool. They've got some sort of data system that they're using. Again, I don't even care if it's Excel. They've got something. Traditional, they've got that, they've got the tool, they've got top-level support, they've got a budget, they know how much money they're spending every year. Advanced, they've got a tier 2 system. They've got a tier 2 process in place and a bunch of other things. And then there's world class, which means you've got it all, you're doing the best you can, you're kicking butt, you're taking names, it rocks. And that's the condensed version. Literally each one of these has a long list of things in it that qualifies you for that particular category. So you've done everything you can do internally. You've figured out where you stand. You compared yourself to your competitors. You've compared yourself to the best in the world. And then you look at this checklist and you say, okay, I got a traditional program. I'm doing okay. We haven't actually done anything yet, right? We haven't gone out and gotten any new supply. We haven't done anything yet. We've just figured out where we stand. This is a good place to stop, trust me. It's 10:55, so we're 5 minutes early. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. Can we be back here at 11:10? Or whatever, bathroom break, check your emails, call mommy, whatever. So to recap, we have figured out internally where we stand. Right? We've taken a look at our landscape, we've assessed our situation, we found out where all the money is, we figured out how to count the money, we got a really good technology tool in place that we can use to help us move things along. What else have we done? Oh, we benchmarked, right? We've compared ourselves against our competitors, our peers, the best in the space. And now, so we spent an hour doing all of that, we haven't actually done any work, right? So now we're actually ready to start working. We're actually ready now to have a supplier diversity program. And in order to do that, you've got to convince people inside of your organization what this is, why it makes sense, and why they should help you do it. You have to do it, right? You have supplier diversity in your title. They don't. More importantly, the word diversity conjures up personal perceptions with anybody. It just does. It's one of those words. It's like an emotional word. And there will be some folks internal to your organization that don't feel there is any room for emotion in a business setting, emotion in the workplace. And the rest of this conversation is about taking the emotion out of supplier diversity. I want everything you do from here on out to be solely about money. There's no room for emotion. You are going to have to take that out of the equation for people. Which is hard, because you have diversity in your title. They see you coming. It might as well be tattooed on your forehead. Internally, if I try to schedule a meeting with somebody, want to have a conversation with somebody, they know I'm not coming to talk about last night's game. I've got diversity in my title. They know what I'm coming to talk about.
What is your formal title?
So, Senior Director of Supplier Diversity and Strategic Sourcing.
Okay. Thank you.
Either they don't know what the hell that means, they don't want to know what the hell that means, or they do know and they don't want to talk to me about what that means. Those are only three options. Nobody's ever like, oh, Cory, get in here, let's talk about some Black and Hispanic people. No, no, it doesn't work that way. Your ability to influence, right? Because again, if you are not in the procurement function to the point that you're actually placing the orders yourself, you are influencing somebody else to do that. If you're doing it yourself, if you cut recs and POs and issue contracts and do RFPs and all that other stuff, you can sit in your office and you can make that number move all day long. Assuming you're doing it with integrity. But if you're not, right, you've got to convince people to do that for you. That's your job. Your role as an influencer. You don't, like with my kids, right? You don't want to, because daddy said so. You want to convince them that they need to do it on their own for their own reasons and because they should, because it has some result on the other side that is tangible and means something. What is that? So, that's called the business case. And, come on in. I've got 3 different diagrams of the business case. They all pretty much say the same thing. But depending on who you talk to, for whatever reason, I've used all 3 internally. And for whatever reason, they resonate with people differently. So I'm going through all 3 with you. For your organization, you may say, Cory, this all sucks. And it may not be applicable. But if one of the 3 makes sense to you, go ahead. This one is for people that have some sort of knowledge of supplier diversity. It's been in the organization. They think they know what it is. They've heard about it. Their supplier diversity person might have dragged them to an EMSDC conference 10 years ago, or they have to go to the black tie dinner, and then they leave right after the chicken. You know, they never sit around for the awards. They have some idea of what this thing is, but they don't really fully grasp it. So they've created, in their own brain, their list of things of what it is, right? And those folks The right thing to do is what comes up. No disrespect to anybody. I hate that term. Because it implies that supplier diversity is charity. It's the right thing to do. We should take care of these people because they're also in need. And we have a bunch of money, so let's give them some. It implies that it is a philanthropic endeavor. It implies that these people, whatever your supplier base is, couldn't do it on their own. They could not effectively garner business from your corporation without you, in your role, giving them the business. And there's someone in the organization with that thought who thinks people should earn business, not have it given to them. They're approaching this entire process incorrectly. They also think it's affirmative action. They think we're doing it because of compliance reasons, that, oh, if we just hit 10%, then we're good. I can stop. Right? I don't need to go to 11% because we hit our number. So I'm good. I'm off the clock. I did my job. Don't talk to me about this crap until next year. Those folks need to be moved to a new paradigm where this has nothing to do with philanthropic endeavor. This has nothing to do with charity. This is business. In business, you either make money or you reduce costs. Those two things improve your profitability. That's it. Either you make money or you reduce costs. It's like I tell my kids, we could make $1 million. If we spend $999,000, we still some broke money. Right? So either you are helping your organization through diversity make money, or you are helping your organization through diversity reduce its costs. That's it. The idea that it's the right thing to do is crap. What's the right thing to do is make your company money or reduce your company's costs. Here's the scenario of someone senior in your organization with the assumption that supplier diversity is the right thing to do. My head of technology, senior vice president of information technology, great guy. He and I, loads of fun. We hang out, happy hour, get wasted, all good. I have no ill will towards this man, he has no ill will towards me. My title does not scare him. We're good. He has a technology project coming up. Going out to bid. He's got some diverse suppliers on the bid. He also has, coming up, to buy a table for 100 black men. Everybody knows the organization 100 black men. Pick some, the Girl Scouts. I don't care what you pick. Pick anything. Wounded Warriors Project. Pick anything that is considered charity. If in his brain, he has the option to choose, I'm going to spend $10,000 on a table for this black tie event where I tell me and my staff are going to go to this event, or select a vendor to win a job. If in his brain those two things are the same, you're screwed. In some people's brain, they are the same. Everybody with me? Supplier diversity is not the right thing to do. Buy the table for Wounded Warriors or Girl Scouts of America or Volunteers of America, all of that, great. Companies got a crap load of money, that's absolutely what they should do. If in his brain he thinks that's the same as selecting a vendor for his technology project, that is not the right thing to do. He should do that because it makes good business sense, because that vendor can do the job, because that vendor came in as the low bid, because that vendor is going to deliver on the budget and on time. Oh, they just happen to be Asian. You with me? If you are not tying this program to dollars, they think this. Supplier Diversity creates a network of business partners that are highly representative of the customer's expectations. So I talked to you earlier about what was happening on the field, right? The decline of African American players, the rise of Hispanic players. What do you think that did to our fan base? Who stopped coming to games? And who started coming to games? That's money. That's tickets. That's tickets. So my job is to convince them that, oh, if we increased our supplier diversity network, it would increase our fan engagement. And they look at me like I'm crazy. How the hell is picking that supplier going to put butts in seats? Oh, let me show you. The customer is who they care about. In my world, the customer are two people. I've got fans, butts and seats, right? The average baseball stadium holds 40,000 people, 45,000 people. The average football stadium holds 90. And remember, I was talking crap about NFL earlier, right? I'm not going to revisit that. But they need to step their game up because they could make a whole lot of money if they were to focus. The second customer for us is sponsors. Right? So I usually have this picture, couldn't get it to fit and work properly, but I put a picture up of Yankee Stadium. And it's only half the stadium, it's not even a whole stadium. I put it up, tell everybody to focus on it, and then I take it down. And then I tell them to count all the billboards that are in Yankee Stadium. Sponsor ads. And people throw out 8, they throw out 10, they throw out 12. In that pictorial, there are, I think, 34 different billboards inside Yankee Stadium. Bank of America, Delta. Oh God, what's the other company? John Deere. John Deere in New York. But they cut the grass. We make so much money off of our sponsors and season ticket holders and licensing deals that sitting down with the sales department or the corporate sponsorship department and explain to them how Supplier Diversity can make them money, you see the light bulb go off. I tell this story all the time about the minute I knew I was doing it right at NBC. I get a call from the sales department. I didn't even know the sales department knew I existed. Again, Supplier Diversity, what the hell do I have to do with the sales department? This guy calls me and he's like, so you're Cory, right? You called me. Asked me my name. Yeah, I'm Cory. So explain the supplier diversity thing to me. Okay. Tell me what you need. Do you need numbers? Because that's usually what I call them. You need some numbers because they got to fill out some application or fill out something. So we've got Walmart on the phone, and they're asking about our supplier diversity practices because they want to put a 30-second commercial for the Super Bowl on NBC, and we're trying to get $2 million for 30 seconds. Oh, now I'm important. Because I'm the difference between you having 0 and $2 million. sales. All of a sudden, supplier diversity was what it was all about. When you get that call from sales, you've made it. Trust me, you've made it. Not that you called them. When they call you, you've made it. These characteristics should be replacing these. If you have a vendor bringing something new to the table, doing something in a new way, a better way, right? So, I just keep giving examples and hope some of this stuff is resonating. We've got a supplier, they're more than a supplier, they're a licensee. And I really want to go into the difference between licensing and sponsorship and stuff in the sports industry, but I don't have a whole bunch of time. So they were a supplier, they became a licensee, which means they can sell MLB branded product in the retail market, and we get a cut. Right? So the teams make their money off of ticket sales, butts and seats, people pay for a ticket to go to a baseball game. MLB, the parent company, the commissioner's office, we make our money off of licensing. I told you guys earlier, the Yankee hat sells more in Japan than it does here in the United States. The Yankees get a cut, but we get a bigger cut. Because it is sold in Walmarts, in Targets, in any MLB, any branded stuff, that's money coming into our pockets. It goes to the team, but it's our brand. We could change the Yankees owner tomorrow, not that we would. The Yankees brand, that logo, it's MLB's, it belongs to us. So that's how we make our money, licensing. Suppliers, our version of vendor development is to take a supplier, grow their business from 1 team to 10 teams to 20 teams to 30 teams, and then turn them into a licensee. That's our vendor development program. Different corporations have different vendor development, how you grow a vendor in size and scale. That's our vendor. When you've gone from providing us good quality product to making us some money, you're a great vendor. Now, we have scenarios where I know the same supplier is being used by maybe 4 teams. Because the teams don't necessarily talk to each other. Again, they're their own companies, right? Whatever. He's charging them all different price. He knows they don't talk to each other. So I come in and I say, look, first of all, cut the crap. You had a nice run at this, the jig is up, you've been caught. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, because they love you. You've been providing great product, you deliver on time. I'm not going to get rid of you. They actually like you as a supplier. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get you 6 more teams. You're at 4, I'm going to get you 6. You're going to have 10. But that product, you're cutting the price by 75%. I just saved MLB a whole bunch of money. He's happy because he's now got 10 teams instead of 4. Everybody wins. That's not the right thing to do. That made us some money. It made him some money. Moving that needle, growing that vendor, that's your job. It's your job. Again, same business case, same idea, same concept, different graphic. For some reason, people like this. I created this when I was at NBC. At the time I was at NBC, it was owned by GE. Comcast owns NBC. So like, I had to do this, like, you know, 6 Sigma people, lean, and everybody was like, you can't impress us. And they like graphics, they don't like words, right? They like numbers, and they like symbols, and they like, so for whatever reason, this resonated with that group of people. So I just swapped out the graphic. I took it with me. Put MLB instead of it said GE up there. Now it says MLB. But it's this idea again that the money flows. This is not about charity. This is about money, and the money flows. The money that goes out the door will come back to you in the form of customer loyalty. And it goes both ways. So I give the money to a supplier, and we talked about this earlier, right? The teams love their cities. I give the money to a supplier. The supplier has employees that probably work in the community, live in the community. The community is impacted economically because of the work I gave that supplier. For all I know, not for all I know, I've done it. The sales guy got a promotion because he landed an MLB account, and he had to hire 2 people to support the account. That's your job. We all want to win awards from EMSDC and everybody else. You all want our spend numbers to be huge. No, 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 no. Your job is economic impact. And if you can move a community, that's why I get up every day. That's what moves me. That's why I do this job. Economic impact. It is not about spend goals. It ain't about the $1 billion round table. I don't care about that. And I've been in this game a long time. There was a point in time I did. I wanted it real bad. Now, God, I want to take them. But you provide for a business in such a way that somebody gets a promotion and 2 people get hired? 2 people that did not have a job are employed because of what you did. Come on, man. Nothing in the world beats that feeling. Out of that, we're going to assume there's some residual income. And guess what? Maybe they'll go to a baseball game. So the money comes right back. CFOs love this. They love to hear, oh wait, the money we put out is coming right back? Oh yeah, let's do that. What do we need to do? Let's do supplier diversity. I still don't know what the hell it is, but you just told me the money's coming back, so let's do it. That's your job. Last one. And the only reason this one makes any difference is because it's got the word ROI in it. People love the ROI. Show me the ROI. Put together something that tells me what the ROI is. I'm not giving you any money until you show me. Really? Okay. Here's the ROI. So yes, the inherent ROI, I increase my diversity spend, right? You have your goal for your boss. You're going to go into your performance review at the end of the year, and your boss is going to say, hey, let's talk about what you did. Did your diversity number go up? The answer better be yes. That's your individual ROI. It makes the company look good. Yes, you can then apply for your EMSDC award because your number increased. That's your ROI. We talked earlier, though, about what does that actually mean, that increase in diversity spend, because it is a function of the total spend of the company. You spend $2 billion a year, yeah, your number went up, it only went up 1%. It's not necessarily a function of your diverse spend, it's a function of the overall total spend. It's a fraction, right? The bigger the bottom number gets, the less your percentage is, even if your top number went up. So, ROI, when you start talking about numbers, and I'm going to do a whole slide on this later, can be a funny thing because we can play games with numbers. Everybody knows the statement, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Unless you want them to. That's the part I add on the end. Because you can make a number do anything you want it to do. 2 plus 2 can equal 5 if you give me long enough. But they want to see ROI. They want to know what your cost savings was, right? The optimal work, the best case scenario in supplier diversity is your diverse spend number is going up as your procurement spend is going down. That's the best case scenario in supplier diversity, because that means you saved your company money, you spent less, but you did it using diverse suppliers, so your diverse spend increased. For you, that is as good as it's ever going to get. Your overall spend for the entire company decreased while your supplier diversity spend increased. That's like, you get to do a happy dance for a week if you pull that out. That's as good as it gets. That's like the holy Mecca, the holy grail. Pick a holy, that's it. Increase revenue. right? I just said, the minute you tie this stuff to your company making money, you're golden. When I was at NBC, the first rev share deal I did with a minority business, I did a deal with Magic Johnson Enterprises, his food services company, Sodexo Magic. NBC, I don't know how many of you have been in New York, been to 30 Rock, but 30 Rock has the merchandise store in the lobby level of the building. The second floor of the merchandise store is like a food, it's like coffee and donuts and stuff. The vendor that was in there sucked. They hated him. Bad quality, wasn't paying the lease. It was just late on payments for the space. They wanted him out. They were going to bring in Sodexo to do the food services. I said, well, if you're going to do that, and this goes back to your level of influence, right? Even being a part of that conversation when that was going to happen so that it didn't bypass you, and by the time you found out about it, it was already too late and there was nothing that could be done, is important. And we're going to talk about who those champions and advocates are. Greg reminded me to bring that up. Sodexo Magic, they still bid it out. Sodexo Magic participates in the bid, competing against Sodexo. And their proposal came back, and the only difference was they offered a rev share deal. They said, if this store makes $700,000 in a year, which 30 Rock, all those people coming through that building, piece of cake. If this store makes $700,000 in a year, we'll give you guys 2% of the profit. It's not a big number, but it's money. It's not 30% of the profit, it's 2. The other deal, bullet point 2, if it makes $1 million, we'll split you still get your 2. The other 98, we'll split that with you 70-30. That was it. Oh, wait. Not only was this something that was a pain in the neck to me that I hated to deal with, the old guy, but the new guy is not just going to take over for this guy and make it better for me. He's putting money in my pocket. Gold. Gold. It did $850 the first year. Didn't hit the $1 million. I'll take that 2% though. Write that check. Competitive advantage, market differentiator. This is the stuff. Increased market share. These last two are the stuff your CFOs and your CEOs love to hear. Why is this going to make me any different? This is the Walmart calling NBC saying we want to make sure that our commercial, if we're going to give you a check for $2 million, has some sort of diversity in it. That's a market differentiator. That gives them market share over their competitor. So what is your supplier diversity program doing that makes your company different from the guy you are directly competing against? You answer those 4, you've got your business case. The idea is to line supplier diversity up with your company's business imperatives. It's cool if your company is in technology and all your supplier diversity numbers come from construction or building renovation. Great for you, but that's not what your company does. I get a whole bunch of numbers out of construction. But I play baseball. We hit a ball with a stick and we run in the square. How am I taking supplier diversity and lining it up with my on-field operations? I got a call, multiple calls, from about 4 or 5 of the clubs. I said, Cory, we need new grass. Now again, I don't work at a baseball stadium every day, right? I sit in an office building in the middle of Manhattan. As I'm thinking of ideas and ways to improve my supplier diversity program, grass ain't one of them. It's not on my radar. It's not coming up in my brain at all. So I need the folks that are doing it every day to tell me what they need. And that goes back to your advocates and your strategic partners inside your organization. And I said, okay, you want to do an RFP for grass? I didn't know there was such a thing that even be done, but let's do it, sure. Which was an absolute nightmare, because there's way more different types of grass out there than I ever began to imagine there was. Seriously, grass that can't be actually grown by the sun. It needs its own special light. Never mind. Y'all don't get me started on the grass thing. Flashbacks, oh gosh. But that was core to our business, right? The grasses cannot, you ever seen brown grass on a baseball field? You'll never see brown grass. They will not allow that to happen. They will postpone a game before they put it on TV that there's brown grass on a baseball. Trust me on this. It's built into the contract for the broadcasting rights. Trust me on this. They will not show anything other than the greenest of green grass for those gentlemen to walk out on. Tie it to your core business. So you built your business case, right? You've got some folks convinced that this actually makes sense. Now you got to sell it, right? Because now you need people to actually do the work. I'm going to suggest that marketing your program internally is 1,000,000,000,000 times harder than externally. We've kind of been talking about that, right? Getting the folks inside to buy in and show up. Externally, you got it. You guys come to events like this, you sit in a room full of each other, y'all can talk about this stuff to death. And actually have a conversation, because you can converse with someone that knows what the hell you're talking about. Internally, as I said, they see you coming. And they run in the other direction. So, who does like it? Find it. And hold on to them for dear life. Right? And from that perspective, I'm talking about everybody. Because we get into this mindset that, well, if they're not high enough, then that doesn't really count. And again, we started out talking about the difference between a buyer and procurement and strategic sourcing. I'm suggesting that even that buyer can be your best advocate. Because you need people that can have some sort of influence. You need the folks that can make these big sweeping statements and everybody else falls in line. But as much as you need the chiefs, you need the Indians. You need the foot soldiers. You need the people on the ground. The grass thing, it came up from some grounds crew guy who transferred it to the stadium operations guy, who transferred it to the VP of stadium operations, who transferred it to the finance guy, who transferred it to procurement. Find them, hold on to them. Give them your number, give them your cell phone number. Because they will call you with the craziest idea, but it's the idea that no one else in the damn building is thinking about. And the minute you can make it yours, nobody else is thinking about it. So you've got like a little pet project you can play with, right? You can figure out how to pitch it, how to sell it. You line up your vendors around it. You got everybody lined up so that when you go to present it, it's got a nice little pretty bow already on it. We kind of talked about utilizing procurement. Knowing that even their scope is limited, right? We talked about total spend. And we talked about, for MLB, I'm only tracking $2 billion of probably what's $15 billion. When I was at NBC, I was tracking 1.5 on 10. But I understood what I was doing because you can't, at NBC, you can't have a producer say, okay, I'm going to make a movie for $100 million. $20 million of that's going to Will Smith. The rest of it, oh yeah, go talk to Cory on how you should spend it. A Hollywood producer? He's coming to me? Hell no. He's going to spend it however he can. So I knew that that money I could not factor in. That was going to happen independent of me outside of me. I had no influence on it whatsoever. Let me stick to my world. I know that for that movie, though, they're going to hire a caterer. They're going to hire security. There's set design. There's floral arrangements. The vans, those big mobile trucks that they set up with the antennas and the equipment and all of that. Let me stick to my... All right, you and Will Smith, y'all go play over there. I got this right here. Figure out your world, control it, and lock it down. It's okay that you don't get to touch all of it. The stuff you do touch, though, you better move that needle. Attend department staff meetings. I love this one. So, again, they see you coming, right? And they don't want you in there. They got important stuff to talk about. They don't want to talk about charity, right? So first, it's convincing them that this is not that. I would say, look, give me the last 10 minutes of your meeting. Handle your business. I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be an inconvenience. I don't want to be a pain in the butt. The last 10. Not the first 10, because I know you got stuff to get to. You have a priority list. You have an agenda. Give me the last 10. And I'll take whoever's still left. Because folks got to leave, they got to get to another meeting. I'll take whoever's left. Give me the last 10 minutes of your meeting. And I would spend that 10 minutes doing one thing. I created a PowerPoint presentation, and it was called The Myths About Supplier Diversity. And I spent that 10 minutes telling them everything they thought about supplier diversity was wrong. I presented to stadium operations and did the myths. I did 5, whatever. It was the right thing to do, charity, whatever the 5 were. And then the 6th slide was like a glossary. I just went through definitions. MBE, WBE, SDB. Just explained our language to them. And I got to LGBT. And then I explained to them that we don't double count. So ethnicity overrides gender. If you're a Hispanic woman, I count you as Hispanic, which means women category is only white women, because if you're black or Hispanic, you get put in the other bucket. Went through this whole explanation. So then I got to LGBT, and then he said, well, then that means that's white men. And I said, that's exactly what it is. And this idiot says, oh, well, if I say I'm gay, you'll give me some business. And I said, at least now you understand the terms. All I need him to do is pay the hell attention. I don't care that you're a jerk. You're a jerk, but I don't care. You know a hell of a lot more about what I do than you did 10 minutes ago. So you made your little joke, you got your co-workers to laugh, you're a jerk, but guess what? You know what the hell LGBT means now, and you did not when you woke up this morning. You friggin' idiot. 10 minutes, staff meeting, at the end. Trust me, it works. Trust me, it works. And I'm not even saying pick the difficult departments. Pick the departments that are kind of your friends, and how you figure that out is up to you, right? You might say, look, here's where I'm getting most of my diverse spend. Let me go talk to them. Because they're already doing it and they might not even know. They might not even have a clue that they're doing it. And now that's tricky too, right? Because you don't want to alert somebody that they're doing something and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't even mean to do that. Let me take that away. But you guys will figure out internally who you should and who you should not do that. And I'm telling you, 10 minutes, it works. I've done it to the point that we spent 20 minutes on it. I've done it to the point that they didn't leave, we spent 30 minutes on it. It works. End of the meeting, not the beginning. Because then you screw them up and the boss is like, get out of here, and we'll cut you short. End of the meeting. To that end, knowing your audience, you have got to speak their terms, right? If you're talking to the construction or renovations or whatever, real estate department, whatever you're talking about, don't go in there talking about your diverse spend with technology. Talk to them. Talk to them about their stuff. If you're talking to marketing, Don't talk about technology, don't talk about construction, talk to them, speak their language. They want to know why you're there talking to them as it directly applies to them. You're going to have a bunch of great examples in a bunch of other areas. Talk to them. And guess what? If they suck, tell them that too. Not like that. But show them their numbers, show them their examples. I've done it where I laid out, here's what you guys did last year. This is the 10 minutes. You're going to spend the 10 minutes on what you did last year. I'm not comparing to anybody else. I'm telling you you can move better. I'm telling you if you gave it that much, a little more effort, your number would not just increase linear, it would increase exponential. Even if it's a lie touch. You guys do the trade shows, you do the stuff. I will say pick your poison. Right? Because you can spend all your time out in the office at an event. Right? So pick the ones you want to go to, pick the ones that make the most sense for you, and go and focus. Right? I would also say that as much as we can do this at Supplier Diversity events, I'm going to propose that you might have a lot more traction at industry-specific events, but you're the only Supplier Diversity person in the room. This is kind of almost like preaching to the choir sometimes, right? You're talking to folks that already know what your struggles are, and what you're going through. You want to go to your industry. You want to go to a healthcare event. You want to go to an insurance event. You want to go to a technology event where you're the only guy in the room that you're the expert. You are the expert and you got to explain to them. And trust me, if it's industry specific, there's people in your organization already going to that event. It's not like it's creating a new budget line item. Somebody in your company's doing it. It's your industry. When I was at NBC, we had to go to NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters event every year. It was like the mecca for anybody in the entertainment and media world. Partnered with Disney, created a diversity at an event that is still going on to this day. This is the numbers. And this is where the games get played. Right? Because again, we all want big numbers. We all want to say that our program is the biggest and the best in the world. And I've kind of already explained MLB's perspective. We don't give two craps about this. Our program will probably never be $1 billion. I actually don't include numbers that I probably could include to make my program look better. But I'm not interested in impressing anybody. I'm interested, like I said, in an economic impact. I want to hire people. I want people employed. I want communities to grow. That's what I want. The number? Okay. Yeah, it looks good. Sure. I'll get an award. I do want an award. I keep saying I really want an award. But what are you going after is what I'm trying to get at here. Are you spend focus? So, God, it's so easy to play games. I'm trying to discourage that at all costs. Right? Because we talked about this is nothing more than a fraction. Right? Your diverse number over your total spend number. So, the smaller you make that total spend number, the better your program looks. But are you excluding stuff to the point that there is diverse spend over there, or potential diverse spend over there, or opportunities over there for diverse spend, that you're leaving it off the table just because you want a bigger number? Cost savings. If that's your focus, then what are you doing to achieve that? Because you can play games there. You can drill suppliers to bring that price point down to the point that you're actually not helping the diverse supplier. He's not making any money. His margin is so thin because you hammered into his head that he needed to be the low bidder. What the hell are you really doing? Seriously. Yeah, you got him some business. Great. He gets to say MLB as a client. He's not getting any money. Low bid. He's making 5% margin. Where he had it for. You can't pay his staff on 5% margin. So what are you really doing? Is ethnicity your focus? You look at your program, you did your level set, you did your assessment, earlier on, and you figured out that all your diverse spend was with African American. Well, what happened to everybody else? What happened to the Hispanics? What happened to the women? What happened to the veterans? What happened to the Asian? The idea is that there's enough to go around. Spread the love. There's enough. So what are you doing to level that playing field? If you have an overall 20% supplier diversity goal and 18% of it is coming out of one group, what are you doing? When the rest of them, nobody's eating over there. And then there's commodities. Because again, we talked about the areas that most of us traditionally get our spending from, right? It's construction, it's promotional products, it's IT staffing, it's the guys you see at the conferences every year that come up, they've got that card ready. We know the commodities in which there are tons and tons of diverse suppliers. What about the areas in which there are none or limited? Because technically, that's the guy or that's the girl. When there's only one, get him and her in the door and have them compete against those other firms. That's the one that you should be focused on. That's the one that you do the hand-holding and say, look, this is how you do business with my organization. When there's 30 of them, you can swap them out all day. And this isn't for everybody. Because this assumes you got money. Like your department has money. You have a budget. Like a sizable budget. So we decided to do it ourselves. So we throw our own diversity trade show. It's called the MLB Diversity Business Summit. And it's actually a career fair and a supply diversity trade show at the same time. Because again, for us, it's not, the numbers are great, but we're about economic impact. I want to hire some people so they can start getting a paycheck. And if you're a vendor, I want to give you an opportunity. We are all about economic impact. If I'm not putting money into your pocket directly, I'm not doing my job. If I haven't caused you to hire 2 people because of your contract with MLB, or somebody got a promotion or a bonus or something, I'm not doing my job. My number could be a gazillion dollars, but if it's all going into the CEO's pocket of that company and it's not trickling down through the rest of that organization, I am not doing my job. So we said, let's throw our own. NMSDC is great, WeBank's great, all of them are great. We set up a booth, we show up, we do our thing, our booth is cool, let's do it ourselves. So we put on a 2-day event, same format. We put the clubs in the booth. So a procurement person or an HR person is in a booth, so they can't run, they can't hide, and then we open the doors. We split the day, half of it's a career fair, so the HR person from the Yankees, the Braves, the Dodgers, the whoever, they're in the booth, we open the door, it's a bunch of people with resumes in there. Go get a job. And then we flip it. And while that's going on, we've got the entrepreneurs, the vendors, in matchmaker sessions. And then we flip the day. We put the procurement people in the booth, open the doors, let all the suppliers in, and while that's going on, there are people that want jobs having interviews. We've got workshops, we do this, I do one of these things. It's 2 days, packed, full. I say this is not for everybody because we've spent $1 million doing one of these. We've spent $500,000 doing one of these. You need a budget to do this. So it is not for everybody. You can probably do a version of it, a hell of a lot more scaled down, because part of this is we didn't take everybody to a baseball game. I mean, there's over 1,000 people that we take to a baseball game. That costs money. You got to buy the tickets. The teams don't give it to us for free, as much as I would like them to. So we've had a packed house. And again, the same way we are about economic impact, we're not about the supplier diversity number. For us, our measure of success isn't that this thing had 2,000 people at it. I could care less. 1,000 of them would go home and be unhappy. The success is who got hired and how many vendors got deals. That's success. We've done it for 3 years. We did it in Chicago. We partnered with the White Sox. We did it in Houston. Well, you know what? Y'all gotta indulge me. I got a little video. So if you guys don't mind, we'll watch the video. It'll tell the story a little better. Can you hear?
I want to thank everybody in attendance for being a part of Major League Baseball's first ever Diversity Business Summit, Major League Baseball's second Diversity Business Summit, Major League Baseball's third Diversity Business Summit, which is one-of-a-kind event in professional sports, and that's what makes it so special.
There's no other event like this. I started with the Dodgers 3 years ago. I would have loved to come to one of these events.
Hey, Scott, nice to meet you.
What Major League Baseball provides for those attending job seekers and entrepreneurs
That's my boss.
is unprecedented access to 30 Major League Baseball clubs, also our minor league clubs, the heads of human resources, and the heads of procurement, distinct individuals in leadership like the commissioner, other owners.
We realize that the demographic in this country is continually changing, and for us to be competitive, we need to be reflective of the communities that we're in.
Diversity is a great thing for everybody, not only for the people who are looking for jobs, but the people who hire them.
We always look for diverse vendors and diverse candidates.
The Astros have an internship program. That's a very good way to get their foot in the door.
Wondering what can I do now to better my opportunity in the future.
Be confident and be excited about what you have to offer. If you're a vendor, be excited about your product.
I'm actually looking for full-time employment, and I just wanted to see what you guys had available.
So we have internships in all the departments, whether it's media relations, corporate sales.
And one of the best features of the summit is the business briefing, which is almost a classroom format of how to do business with us, how to get a job with baseball.
This business briefing is called Doing Business with Baseball.
Don't that sound official?
And the sole topic today is RFPs, requests for proposals.
All that variety of activity and networking under one roof, there's nothing like it.
All I did was I worked my tail off, whether it was playing baseball, whether it was working for the Yankees as an intern, but you never know who's watching you do what you do while you're doing it.
I thoroughly enjoyed the event. Other than just learning different aspects of Major League Baseball, the business side of it, it was also great to network with different people from different areas.
There is no other venue in the country where job seekers and entrepreneurs come together in a fabulous venue like this.
These teams are looking for diverse candidates. They want a diverse talent pool. You get opportunities that you would normally get. You know, I'm from the Midwest and I'm meeting with teams from all over the country.
For both the league and the clubs, it's a tremendous opportunity to have a very talented, diverse candidate pool together in one place. And you know one thing about each and every person who goes to that summit, they're interested in baseball.
I would like to do something which is my passion, which is baseball.
Baseball is held to a higher standard. And I think our commitment to the Diversity Summit is an example of baseball accepting that responsibility and moving forward.
Join us in our co-host club, the Arizona Diamondbacks, for the 2016 Diversity Business Summit in Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. So we're doing one next year, as you just heard, in Phoenix. So I'm proactively looking for suppliers to come to that event next year. That's all I'll say on that. It's a great event. It's a wonderful opportunity to folks. And again, you know, it can be replicated. It doesn't need to be that big. It doesn't need to be that broad. One of the things I appreciate about it is we activate it with 100% diverse suppliers. The food is provided by a diverse supplier. Those booths are built by 21st Century Expo Group. I don't know how many of you know them, but they do the EMSDC conference. The shuttle buses that move people around, diverse supplier. Every aspect of this event, we make sure, how you gonna have a diversity event and you don't have diverse suppliers doing it? Right? So we make sure we activate across the board with that. Okay, so this is the last slide, and it basically says, everything I said today, you gotta keep doing it. So when you think you've gotten there, start all over. Level set all over again, assess all over again, benchmark all over again, because then you've moved the needle. You might need to compare yourselves to brand new folks now. So this isn't, I hit the $1 billion roundtable, I get to sit back and relax. No, no, no. At every stage, do it all over again. I'm done.
Thank you.